So one of the most common questions that I see on social media answered by a lot of dancers is, what does a professional dancer eat in a day? Hi dancers, welcome back to Nutrition for Dancers, where you can learn how to become the healthy dancer. I'm Rachel Fine, former dancer turned registered dietitian nutritionist and specialist in all things dancer nutrition and health. So one of the most common questions that I see on social media answered by a lot of dancers is, what does a professional dancer eat in a day? And while sometimes these can spark a lot of inspiration among younger dancers, they can also spark a lot of comparative thoughts, especially because our needs as dancers, whether you're professional, pre-professional, student, recreational, whatever it might be, our individual needs are so different. So when we see what I eat in a day, it's really important to take those videos, take that information with a grain of salt. Now, as a dancer, as a dietitian, I do obviously like to help guide dancers so that they can build meal plans that support them, support their performance. But just a disclaimer, that performance is not only focused on your physical performance, we're also always focusing on our mental and emotional well-being as well, because all of this together really comes into play when supporting the entirety of who you are as a dancer. So for the purpose of this video, I am zooming out, taking a bird's eye view, a general approach to what you as a dancer can prioritize in your diet to support that performance. Now, I just want to back up a little bit because I'm utilizing this word diet throughout this video, and usually I don't do this, and this is because the word diet in of itself has been culturally constructed over the past 100 years, if not more, to mean something that is extremely regimented and, keyword here, restrictive. Now, there are a lot of issues when it comes to restrictive dieting behaviors and dancers. Now, I'm not just talking about like your classic diets, like for example, intermittent fasting or Weight Watchers, whatever it might be. I'm also talking about wellness lifestyles, these often rebranded types of diets that can be very insidious and difficult to actually decipher whether or not they are a sustainable lifestyle or actually just another restrictive diet. And of course, what comes to mind for me is clean eating lifestyles. These are restrictive and we really want to be aware of them. So dancers, what can you focus on when it does come to your diet? And now in this realm, I'm focusing on the word diet as its true meaning. If we look way back in time, diet just means a pattern of eating, not restrictive. It's just what you're eating throughout the day. Well, in the blog post for this video, you can learn about way more than what I'm just gonna cover now, but I did want to pull out the 3 most important points for you to consider. First things first, we want to focus on eating consistently throughout the day. Essentially what this means is that you're eating meals and snacks at regular times. You're not going extended long periods of time between those meals and snacks. So usually a range of about 2 to 4 hours is going to support you best, especially when it comes to both your energy levels and your recovery. So energy before your classes and recovery after your classes. So this often takes a more proactive approach, and essentially what that means is that you are finding some time in your week where you can plan ahead just in case you need to bring some emergency snacks with you, because keeping to that consistency can get very difficult when our schedules really start to fill up during the week and even on weekends. So planning ahead of it can be super helpful for a dancer, and this is often where that misconception lies in regard to what we often hear about intuitive eating. Intuitive eating is this non-diet approach where we learn to fuel our bodies based off of what we need to support us, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally. Now, sometimes social media makes intuitive eating to seem like it's a bit mindless, that we're kind of just listening when we're hungry, when we're gonna stop when we're full, and it's actually not this simple. It's way more nuanced than this, but the misconception for dancers often lies here, that planning ahead is not intuitive. And planning ahead, especially with your meals and snacks, actually helps you to be more intuitive and to be more mindful when it comes to those actual eating times. times. So plan ahead, not as a divisive tool in regards to maybe counting calories or being super obsessive about the different types of food you're eating, but plan ahead just to make sure you've got emergency snacks. If there comes a time where perhaps you are on a long car ride or in a long commute, whatever it might be, you do have something on hand, like a bar or a shake or something that can just help to pick up your energy levels at that time. Now, super important point here, as best to your ability, you want to not skip meals. I hear about this a lot amongst dancers in regards to focusing most of their attention usually like on breakfast and on dinner, and therefore during the day things getting a little haywire. To the best of your ability, you honestly want to try to honor meal times. Obviously that's not always possible with a dancer's schedule though, right? So again, packing those snacks, super important, but also making sure those snacks are sustainable. A bag of chips isn't gonna cut it. What we want to try and incorporate, and this is my next tip, is staying power of our meals and snacks. So staying power is this really helpful tool that we can focus on when it comes to how our meals and snacks actually help to keep us feeling full and satisfied for a certain amount of time, or at least to get us to that next meal or snack. So usually I like to say, our meals or snacks really should try and keep us feeling full for anywhere between like 2 to 4 hours, depending on your personal schedule and so forth. How do we increase the staying power of our meals and snacks? Well, we can focus on a few things. So the first is balance. Balance of 3 macronutrients: carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Now, I'm not going to spend time in this video to really decipher between what these 3 macronutrients are. I actually do that a lot on my blog, dancenutrition.com. Highly recommend you go check it out. I break down each of these macronutrients within their own, actually multiple different blog articles for you. But we want to focus on balance. We want to ask ourselves, does this meal or snack have a source of carb for me? Does it have a source of protein? Does it have a source of fat? When it incorporates if not maybe 2 of these macronutrients together, then we can at least work to help boost that staying power. But let's boost it even more. We're going to focus on 2 of these macronutrients, especially right now. Carbohydrates. Complex carbs are rich in fiber. Fiber, as a functional component of carbohydrates, helps to regulate digestion and also helps to keep us feeling full. So choosing carbohydrates that are a bit more fibrous, I'm thinking whole grains, whole grain bread, whole grain crackers, perhaps some starches like potatoes, sweet potatoes, like potatoes, whatever it might be, fruits with peels like apples. These can be super helpful in boosting the fiber content of your meal or snack. So let's just say, as an example, you're having some melon with yogurt and you're realizing that it's not really keeping you too full for too long. Well, then we can think of how can we increase the staying power of this meal? So I would say, how about some sliced apples? Get that peel in there, increase the fiber content, and then if you're usually choosing like a low fat or fat-free yogurt, I recommend doing one that has a more fat content to it. Increasing that fat really does help to promote satisfaction and of course that staying power. So swap the yogurt with something that has fat in it, add a fruit that's a little bit more fibrous, and perhaps even choose something like chopped nuts or ground flax, ground seeds. This can also help to increase the fat content as well. And then my third and final tip for your diet as a dancer is to prioritize your relationship with food. This is one that is super close to my heart, especially because of all of the misinformation that is out there that dancers do read online about what is healthy, what is not healthy. Our relationship with food should be one that is a working relationship with food, a sustainable relationship with food. We want to be partaking in behaviors that are going to take us for the long run. Nothing like a quick fix. Clean eating often leads to burnout. It can even lead to physical injury, especially if you're not eating enough on that clean eating plan. So prioritizing your relationship with food is one that's super important. Making sure you're challenging any food rules that you might have. A food rule can be something like not eating past 8 p.m. This isn't going to support you if you have a late night performance and you need to get in a recovery meal after that performance. So food rules we want to try to work to challenge. We also want to start to alleviate feelings of food guilt. If you are feeling guilty about eating a certain food, about eating at a certain time of the day, then that's going to help you identify a potential food rule that we need to now start to challenge and unlearn. Remember, we're not born feeling guilty about eating. These are learned behaviors that can be unlearned. It just takes a lot of time. patience, and of course, support. So if you do feel like you need a bit more support with your diet as a dancer, then I highly recommend you reach out. My contact information is below. You can check out my website, my blog. I have a bunch of services for you that can really help to boost your performance in a way that supports you physically, mentally, and emotionally. Until next time, see ya.